How much are you paying in fees inside of your 401k or brokerage accounts? The answer may shock you. We'll pull back the curtain on Wall Street's fees. That's next on Your Money Matters, presented by the Presley Group.
There are plenty of people who believe a safe retirement is too good to be true, that there is no safe place for you to go with your money. Even your very own government will try to tax it right out from under your nose. But you've just tuned in to information that can save your retirement nest egg. It's Your Money Matters, featuring two of America's top retirement specialists, Christy Smith and Matt Kennedy with the Presley Group. They can teach you how to retire without all of the risks. Now, let's get back to Your Money Matters.
Well, good morning and welcome to Your Money Matters, presented by the Presley Group here on Talk 107.3 WBRP. I'm Matt Kennedy, agent with the Presley Group. Christy Smith, the owner and founder, will be along shortly. Today, we want to peel back the covers on the hidden fees that you may not know are eroding your nest egg. It was back in April that Frontline on PBS had a special. The special was entitled The Retirement Gamble. This 1-hour special took a look at, among other things, how Americans aren't saving enough for retirement, how Americans are at too much risk during retirement, and finally, the fees that are possibly eroding your savings accounts as you plan for retirement. Now, before we dig into how fees can really impact your retirement portfolio, let's start, at the beginning. We go back to just after 2008. The market has crashed. Many Americans are deeply concerned about having enough for retirement. And in his special, The Retirement Gamble, Martin Smith sat down and spoke with Americans just like me and you about where we stand on retirement planning.
Let's begin with one simple fact. America is facing a retirement crisis. And the statistics are grim. Half of all Americans say they can't afford to save for retirement.
The average retirement fund has lost $12,000.
1/3 have next to no retirement savings at all.
I just don't know if I'll be able to save that much. God willing, Social Security will still be there. For someone like me, it'll probably be enough to keep me out of poverty. I'm just going to have to somehow find a way to save 10% of my salary or 15% of my salary, which is probably what I need to actually be saving to have any shot of retiring, not on food stamps. Yeah, I don't know. Hope to be able to retire.
Recently, I've started to look into how to make more money, how to increase my income while still teaching. It's tough to really worry about retirement right now because I know it's so far off, and I know that worrying and stressing over it is an easy thing to do. But I'm also of the mindset that as long as I don't have too many bills or anything, too many debts, then I could essentially live off of whatever I get. I guess plan B would be to keep working, but I'm really banking on plan A. Otherwise, no, I don't have a plan B.
It's hard to imagine, even at this point in my life, being retired. I just don't see it. Living the American dream of having your house and being able to retire. Nobody has a pension anymore. It wasn't like it was in the 60s or 70s where people worked for, good companies and had a pension plan.
I think that's a harsh reality for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. I do think that we'll be working we'll definitely be working until our probably mid-70s. If I had to unless we can make up some big ground soon.
The cost of living is going up. Your water bill goes up, your utility bill goes up, your gas bill goes up, your food goes up. Retirees are getting stressed because their nest eggs, their savings, are not producing any income for them. So they're all wondering where they're going to make ends meet. I'm fortunate I can live at a higher standard because I have a little bit of a nest egg in my retirement savings. But others, they're at poverty level.
As for me, I'm almost 65. I started saving for my retirement in my late 20s. But along the way, I dipped into my nest egg, not once, but several times.
So this is my IRA and 401k, and
which will be cleaned out over a certain amount of time.
Right.
And now, like millions of other baby boomers, I too don't have enough. Most of my savings went to pay for my kids' educations.
This is where fees would really hurt you badly
This
as well.
is where fees would hurt you badly.
A divorce and the crash of 2008 didn't help either.
Well, it looks like my own personal fiscal cliff.
I'm now planning to work for as long as I possibly can.
So this whole plan is predicated on working full-time until 70.
Yes.
And at 70...
From age 70 to 75, I have you working part-time.
These days, many baby boomers are planning to delay their retirement. Some may never stop working. It's hard. Without knowing exactly how long you're going to live, it's difficult to guess how much you need to put away.
Most people seem to feel that at retirement, to be okay, you need 10 or 12 times pay, and maybe 15. So if you make $100,000 a year, you need $1.5 million to be okay. You need to save more. You need to start sooner. You can't start work when you're 20 or 22 and decide to get serious about this in your 40s. The boat has sailed.
So what can we do? Today, Americans entrust over $10 trillion to thousands of big and small financial service providers. But there's so many choices, it's hard to understand.
When it comes to mutual funds, it's often hard to tell what you're looking at.
Rather than a system, it's more like a free-for-all.
I don't really see it as a real system. I see it as maybe a retirement mess is a better word for it.
Looking for real-life answers to your retirement questions?
If you're lucky, you have a 401k. Roughly half of companies offer a 401k. If you work for a small business, chances are you don't have access to such a thing. Some companies then offer other supplements. And then, of course, there's things you can do on your own, like the individual retirement account.
So it's entirely confusing.
Right.
So where does one begin?
Let's talk about that 401k you picked up back in the 80s.
About 60 million Americans have signed up for their company 401k plan.
These are your 401k election forms. As you can see, there are numerous options to choose from. And remember, this is your retirement, so make your selections carefully.
But most people remember their first 401k meeting as dumbfounding.
Any questions?
I had no idea. I was so confused. I came out of that meeting and I was like, oh my God. It was overwhelming for me, the knowledge that you had to have in order to invest.
I really was kind of clueless. I didn't know what I wanted to invest in. I really didn't know anything about it. I had learned I had heard something about if you're young, you should be more willing to take risk. You have time. So other than that, I really knew nothing.
They showed you the plan. You either had your choices between an aggressive investment, moderate, or conservative. You know, there was nobody there managing my money. It was all up to me.
401k is one of the only products that Americans buy that they don't know the price of it. It's also one of the products that Americans buy that they don't even know its quality. It's one of the products that Americans buy that they don't know its danger. And it's because the industry, the mutual fund industry, have been able to protect themselves against regulation that would expose the danger and price of their products.
So just how high is the price of some products on Wall Street? When we come back in a moment, Frontline will unveil the stunning percentages that your mutual fund or your 401k may be costing you. At the Presley Group, it's about protecting and preserving your retirement nest egg and doing so without chewing you up on fees. We'll talk more about that as we continue. To schedule your free one-on-one consultation, give us a call at 791-5773. That's 791-5773. You can stop by and see us. We're at 170 Veterans... No, don't say that. Our office is at 170 Veterans Boulevard in Denham Springs, just north of the I-12, just off of Range Avenue. And a great way to reach us is through our website. Our website is safemoneyplan.net. That's safemoneyplan.net. If you're over age 59 and a half, good news. You can take money out of what may be a very expensive 401k shifted into a plan at the Presley Group, lowering the fees, eliminating the market risk, and creating that guaranteed retirement nest egg. We'll talk more about that as we go forward on the show. When we come back, the startling numbers on how much fees are costing you in your plan. That's next on Your Money Matters. We're back on Your Money Matters, presented by the Presley Group here on Talk 107.3 FM. Our website, again, is safemoneyplan.net. That's safemoneyplan.net. Let's continue now with more excerpts from The Retirement Gamble, which aired this past spring on Frontline on PBS. Last segment, it was all about how the system is very confusing, and many Americans, of course, suffered great setbacks in 2000, 2001, and 2008. So where did this all really kind of begin? Well, according to Frontline, you go back to the early 1980s.
Picking and choosing the right investments requires very careful handling.
Enter the mutual fund industry.
People in the mutual fund industry realized that there was a huge opportunity here, right? I mean, not only could they sell their mutual funds, directly to investors, but they could make the mutual funds the very foundation of the 401k plans.
In 1981, nobody knew what a 401k was. By 1989, it's in the lexicon, it's being written about, it's being talked about. Throughout the 90s, now all large employers effectively have plans in place. People are participating. It continues to grow from there.
Start saving $300 a month when you're 23, and you could retire a millionaire.
The boom happened in lockstep with the roaring bull market of the 80s and 90s. Mutual funds were charging high management fees, but nobody seemed to care.
The returns are great, so no one thinks about how much is this costing me when they're earning 15 or 20%.
Star mutual fund managers like Fidelity Magellan's Peter Lynch encouraged all of us to jump in.
You shouldn't be intimidated. Everyone can do well in the stock market. You have the skills, you have the intelligence. It doesn't require any education. All you have to have is patience, do a little research. You've got it.
Saving for retirement seemed as simple as betting on the market.
It was a great time. Employees who participated in these plans and invested in the stock market, couldn't wait to open their monthly statements to see how much the value had gone up, So things seemed to be working nicely.
Well, I was invested in everything. Stocks, mutual funds, you name it. We would get monthly reports. Things were growing. Everything was growing. In the 90s, you could not lose money in the market, even if you were a dumb investor. I mean, it just kept growing and growing and growing.
The economy was doing great. I mean, you had all kinds of gains in the stock market. That was kind of the dot-com era.
Internet stocks continue their meteoric rise.
You really didn't have to pay attention to, you got your statements at the end of every quarter and you were making money.
It was exciting because gradually over time, we would have a day where we would make $7,000 or and as much as $30,000 in a day as it built, and even more.
In 1996, we had doubled our money. We had almost 500,000. At the height of the internet bubble, Americans had also stuffed 19% of their retirement money into company stock.
We invest all of our 401k in Enron stock, absolutely. Don't you guys agree?
For savers like Debbie Skaczynski, who worked for ComDisco, a computer leasing company, the fall would be precipitous.
I was close to $500,000 I had in my 401k with company stock. It was like, wow, look at all the money we have. Look at what is happening. I can retire probably when I'm 45.
Skaczynski not only lost her savings, she lost her job.
Disco today filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection, including another 200 job cuts.
Joined a who's who list of corporate bankruptcies for
The day I got laid off, I lost it. I thought, oh my God, I'm a single parent. I have no job. I have a house payment. What do I do? And I was scared, really scared. I didn't have much of a retirement left. I I couldn't even borrow against it. And it was just something that I never foresaw, ever. Losing my job, ever.
The worst was yet to come.
Concerns about shaky home mortgages are triggering fears of a financial meltdown.
Talk about the speed with which we are watching.
8 years later, savers were hit again.
And the mortgage market is far from over.
This is volatility we haven't seen, of course, since way before you and I were born.
More trouble ahead for the nation.
When the housing bubble turned into the crash of 2008, it put retirement even further out of reach.
The economic turmoil of recent years is putting a comfortable retirement at risk for many Americans.
It was like, holy smokes, how do you stop the bleeding?
The reality of what you've lost is huge.
Right.
I mean, not only have you now lost half of your 401k, but your house is not worth anything anymore either. So anything that you thought you were going to have there is gone, and now half of your 401k is gone.
If it took 13 years to accumulate $80,000 and 1 year to lose half of that, and then try to get that back in another 13 years and only be at the $80,000 that you were 13 years ago, the math doesn't work.
Every day on the news I'd listen to it and I'd be like, oh God, it's really bad. Will I be able to keep my house? Well, what if my car breaks down? I can't afford a car payment. It just can't be this hard to make money. I can't. You hear these big companies with these people taking these huge bonuses. You're thinking, well, what happened to the average Joe? They just don't care. They've made their money already.
The losses, of course, were painful in 2000, 2001, and, of course, the most painful in 2008. But what about the losses you may not even be aware of? Fees. Well, for that, Martin Smith on Frontline turned to Robert Hilton Smith, who compiled a report about fees inside of mutual funds, brokerage accounts, and 401ks.
As he dug deeper, he discovered one fund invested in mortgage-backed securities, the kind of security that caused the collapse of the housing market. But that's not what worried him.
I was digging into all the different aspects of it, and I kept coming back to fees. So here's the first mention of fees, this X ratio right here. Why would you think that X ratio means fees?
Hilton Smith found over a dozen different kinds of fees, including asset management fees, trading fees, marketing fees, record-keeping fees, and administrative fees.
Fees when you withdraw money, fees when you take loans, fees when you actually get money out when you're retired, which I actually didn't even know about. I spent a month literally going, actually this fee is a subtype of this fee, and that covers that, or no, that's another name for that. It was very opaque.
The average actively managed mutual fund carries an annual expense of 1.3%. Some funds charge a fee of 2%, and even as high as 5%.
That may not seem very much, right? You've got $50,000 or $100,000, and okay, so you lose $500 or you lose $1,000 a year. That's what you would pay to a financial advisor, right? But if you add that up over 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 years in a 401k plan, all of a sudden you're well into the six figures as your balance grows. And that's the difference between running out of money before you die or having a little money left to pass on to your heirs.
A lot of 401k programs are lousy. The fund choices stink. The fees are outlandishly high. And in many cases, you can take two next-door neighbors, living on Maple Street in any town, USA, and one person is paying 10 times as much to invest in a 401k as the other person.
To understand this fee business, I went to talk to someone who has thought long and hard about it. Jack Bogle, the founder of Vanguard. He says that if you want to improve your retirement outcome, make sure to minimize Wall Street's take.
Costs are a crucial part of the equation. It doesn't take a genius to know that the bigger the profit of the management company, the smaller the profit that investors get. The money managers always want more, and that's natural enough in most businesses, but it's not right for this business.
Bogle gave me an example. Assume you're invested in a fund that is earning a gross annual return of 7%. They charge you a 2% annual fee. Over 50 years, the difference between your net of 5% and what you would have made without fees is staggering. Bogle says you've lost almost 2/3 of what you would have had.
What happens in the fund business is the magic of compound returns is overwhelmed by the tyranny of compounding costs. It's a mathematical fact. There's no getting around it. The fact that we don't look at it, too bad for us.
What I have a hard time understanding is that 2% fee that I might pay to an actively managed mutual fund is going to really have a great impact on my future retirement savings.
Well, you have to rely on somebody to get out a compound interest table and look at the impact over an investment lifetime. Do you really want to invest in a system where you put up 100% of the capital, you the mutual fund shareholder, you take 100% of the risk, and you get 30% of the return? This is a kind of sub rosa part of this industry, and there's not a lot of information about it. But the fact of the matter is, as far as I know, that those kind of payments to brokers for distributing your shares has simply become part of the system. You know, the brokers are getting a little religion here. They're saying, why should I distribute your funds unless you pay me to? You get these big management fees. I want some of it. You're getting plenty. Give me some.
The problem is that these fees are not paid by the fund company. The bill is passed to you and me. Here it is, buried deep in my 401k plan documents. It took me about an hour to find the reference.
So what can you do? What are your options? Well, again, if you're over age 59 and a half, for most companies, you're allowed to roll money out of your 401k, even while you're still working, and move that money into an IRA so you can take control of the investment. And if you talk to us at the Presley Group, we can show you how to dramatically lower the fees and safeguard and protect your money from any and all market losses using our fixed indexed annuity strategies. Christy will join me when we come back. We'll talk more about that. In the meantime, if you are interested in learning how to safeguard your retirement, please call us. A free, no-obligation consultation is a phone call away at 791-5773. That's 791-5773. Visit our website. You'll learn lots of info there. You can contact us through the website at safemoneyplan.net. Back with more of Your Money Matters next on Talk 107.3 FM. And welcome back to Your Money Matters. Matt Kennedy, Christy Smith, owner and founder of the Presley Group here now. Christy, all I can say is, wow. When that Frontline special aired back in the spring on PBS TV, I missed it. I didn't have a chance to watch it. And some of our clients told me about it, so I wanted to play some excerpts from that. It's an hour-long show. You can see the whole thing at pbs.org. But it is so eye-opening how little Americans really know about their investments.
Well, and we see that every day at the office when clients come in to meet with us. They don't, number one, understand their investments as a general rule. And then not only that, do they not understand the fees that are associated. Oh. Often I'll hear someone that comes in the office, and when we start talking about fees, they'll say, I'm paying a 1% fee. And I say, oh, okay. And so then we start looking at their assets, and, you know, we'll see that they're sometimes in a variable annuity. And, you know, you've got to add the fees that are within the variable annuity on top of the 1% that they're paying in management fees. And then other times we'll see where clients have mutual funds in their portfolio. And in fact, the mutual funds have fees as well. So a lot of times the devil's hidden in the details.
Oh, yeah.
And people just don't know. And, you know, I'm not saying that a mutual fund's not an appropriate environment for some people. And I'm not saying that, you know, they should never own a mutual fund. But what I am saying is that if you are going to own an investment, you do need to know the details.
Well, the thing that's eye-opening to me, Christy, is that so many Americans, we heard it in the first two segments, even the reporter who was reporting for Frontline just had no clue what was going on. And I think a lot of it, Christy, is that so many people think, well, there's no other option. Interest rates pay nothing. And because interest rates pay nothing, I must be in these risky environments to make money. because their broker, their money manager, is not telling them about the fixed indexed annuity strategies that we use that never put your money at risk, that often have no or very little fees. I think the highest fee in any product we use is 1.05% total fees. But oftentimes we use plans that have no fees. And somebody is saying, well, I've never heard about that. What is that called? It's a fixed indexed annuity. It's a perfect alternative to all these high fee plans.
And a lot of times the reason people haven't heard about a fixed indexed annuity is because it's not considered an asset under management. If a broker were to sell one, they're not actively managing that, because when you buy a fixed indexed annuity, you're really buying a glorified savings account through an insurance company. Your money is not in the market, is not having to be actively managed. Therefore, it's not counted as an asset under management. So, the securities industry as a whole has challenged the insurance industry over this issue, over the fixed indexed annuity industry, simply because so much money has come out of the stock market and gone into fixed indexed annuities. But I will tell you that we are meeting with more and more people who are familiar with them. They're learning about them.
That's right. Even mainstream publications like Forbes and the Wall Street Journal and MarketWatch have now started to realize that the annuity word, if it's the right kind of annuity, is not necessarily a bad thing, certainly as a part of your portfolio that you don't want to put at risk. Now, we want to be real clear here. There's as many kinds of annuities as there are models of cars. And the one that we certainly think you should be very wary of is a variable annuity. Because oftentimes fees in a variable annuity run from 2 to 4%, if not more. I think we've seen as high as 5.5% before. And that word variable, if you're looking for protection, do you really want something where your principal can vary and go down?
Matt, one of the things that I hear so often in the office is that, someone will come in with a variable annuity, and, they were sold it for, I see a lot of times where they're sold those variable annuities at the bank.
Yeah.
And, they don't understand the product. They buy it because of guarantees and income guarantees.
Right.
And a lot of times they don't understand how those income guarantees work. And so even if you already own a variable annuity with an income guarantee, you ought to give us a call and come by and just look at it. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Because it can't hurt to learn exactly what do you already have.
Well, what often happens is, and you and I have seen this a lot recently, someone will come in and say, yeah, but I'm in this plan and I've got a guaranteed 5.5% return. And when I die, that money will go to my heirs. Not necessarily. You may have been sold a bill of goods. You may have been dealing with someone who wasn't completely honest and reputable, and the 5.5 or 6% guarantee sounded good, but that's designed for you if you need income. Don't be deceived by an advertisement in the paper or something, 6-7%. Be very careful. Come see us and let us compare and contrast before you fall into something you regret.
And we have fixed indexed annuities that offer guaranteed income guarantees. Like we've got a plan that we use a lot for clients that are saving for retirement income that's going to give a client a contractual guarantee of growing at least 7% compounded interest every year until they turn it on as an income. But you have to understand that plan would not be appropriate for someone that's not saving for retirement income. If they're saving because they want to leave money to their grandchildren, an income plan is not the right plan.
We have to come up with a different plan. Well, the PBS special, we've played some excerpts from it, is entitled The Retirement Gamble. But I found it very ironic, Christy, that at the same time back in the spring when PBS aired that special, Forbes magazine had an article written by Ted Seidel, and it was entitled The Greatest Retirement Crisis in American History. And he writes a very sobering paragraph. We are on the precipice of the greatest retirement crisis in the history of the world. By the way, he's not talking about Greece and Spain. In the decades to come, we will witness millions of elderly Americans, the baby boomers and others, slipping into poverty. too frail to work, too poor to retire will become the new normal for many elderly Americans. One economist, I'm saying this slowly because it's stunning. One economist, an economist at the New School for Social Research, estimates that 75% of Americans nearing retirement have less than $30,000 in their retirement accounts. Christy, they're counting fully on Social Security. And so we've got this impending crisis coming. We'll talk more about that. But on top of that, we've got the retirement gamble that if you're in the wrong plan, you're being eaten up by fees and put at market risk.
Well, and we're becoming more and more aware that, Americans are no longer, they're no longer able to use the old pension plans because, they're doing away with themselves. And to be quite honest with you, the old pension plan may not be the right direction anyway, because in a typical work pension plan, if you die, the money does not go to your family, and more people are willing to opt out of that plan and do a lump sum distribution to put their money into their own created personal pension plan, therefore ensuring that their family is going to get their money if something happens to them. More and more people are having to rely on 401ks, and that's what, we see that so often. The problem with a 401k, and I'm certainly not advocating not using it.
Oh, sure, you should use
if you have it available, we want you to use your 401k. But the real problem that lies within a 401k is that typically we see people who are trying to make investment choices within their 401k that know nothing about the stock market and are asked to make decisions that are going to affect their retirement future.
Well, you didn't even read this paragraph.
No.
But it's like you read the paragraph that Ted Seidel wrote. Americans, he writes, know that the great 401k experiment of the past 30 years has been a disaster. Wow, that's strong, huh?
Yeah.
He writes, it is now apparent that 401ks will not provide the retirement security promised to workers. Good grief. Why? Well, he goes on to say it's because so many Americans, what you just said, they just kind of put a blindfold on and throw darts up there and hope that they're making the right choice and they don't have protection, Well, one of the things that we would like to urge you to do is give us a call and let us do a retirement analyzer for you.
Or a retirement physical.
A retirement physical, retirement checkup, whatever doctor term you want to use. Here's why. I met with a gentleman the other day. He's 52, Christy. He had left one job, so he moved his 401k into a plan with us as an IRA, and it's safe and it's protected, and we're growing his money at a guaranteed rate because he knows at 65, 13 years, he's going to retire, right?
Right.
And he told me, he said, Matt, I haven't yet started contributing to my 401k at my new job. Should I? And my advice to him was, absolutely. How much, up to what percentage will the company match? And I think it was like 6%. I said, well, you should contribute up to 6% and use so you can get all of the match. It's free money. He goes, well, should I contribute more, like 15%? I said, you're too close to retirement. You should be adding the difference between the 6% and the 15% into the plan that guarantees it can't go away to boost your income. Now, if you're already in a 401k and you're under age 59 and a half, you can't move that money until you leave that job. But the IRS lets us do what after 59 and a half, Christy?
Well, the IRS a lot of times will allow us to use a benefit called an in-service distribution, and that will allow you to continue to work at your job and continue to save in your 401k. But instead of leaving the big bulk of your money within your 401k, where maybe you don't have any guarantees or safety, or, well, if you're in safety, you have no growth potential, the IRS will allow you to do an in-service distribution and transfer that money into your own personal IRA account. You can do this avoiding all taxes. Now, the biggest benefit of doing that, and we have actually seen a lot of people in the last 2 months that are using this benefit because the stock market is at a high, and people are more concerned as they get closer to retirement. They don't want to see another 2008 happen to their portfolio, and so the biggest advantage of doing that is that now you are in control of your own retirement money. You're able to choose exactly where you put it, and you can choose a plan that's got safety and guarantees. Now, we are seeing more and more people utilize this benefit, an in-service distribution, and many of you may not even know that you have the potential to do this.
Yeah, almost all companies, not everyone,
not all of them,
but almost all companies, when you reach age 59 and a half, even if you're still working, they allow you to transfer, without taking a tax hit, money from your 401k into an IRA. Well, in our plans, that IRA becomes a fixed indexed annuity. And again, we can either eliminate or greatly reduce the fees, protect the principal, and grow the money safely. If you would like to learn more, I said earlier, come in for your free retirement checkup. It's one phone call. Takes you a few minutes to call, and we'll take an hour and sit down with you and just talk and find out what you need. We are at 791-5773. That's 791-5773. On our website, it's safemoneyplan.net. That's safemoneyplan.net. And there's a box there. It says, I want to schedule an appointment. Click the box, answer a few questions, and we'll get back with you first of next week.
Now, Matt, one of the things that we're hearing from clients that are coming in the office is that, people are really starting to be concerned, too, about the changes to our healthcare system and how, all of that's going to a lot of it is going to take place in January. And so I think a lot of people now are trying to learn as much as they can about that. And so we're going to have some workshops coming up within the next month that's going to talk about how the new Obamacare plan can affect you. And if you would like to attend one of those workshops, simply give our office a call and let us know that you'd like to attend the workshop. And we'll give you all the details on it. It is a free educational workshop. However, you do have to have a reservation to attend. And so just give our office a call and let us know that you'd like to come to one of our upcoming workshops. Again, you just need to call our office. And Cheryl's in the office this morning, so just give her a call. The number is 791-5773.
Christy, I saw a survey a few days ago. Some 70% of Americans said they are completely confused by the Affordable Care Act.
Well, that surprises me that it's only 74%. I would have thought it was probably 90 or above.
I guess the other people may be fibbing. But you and I are about to go through an intensive course on the Affordable Care Act. We're going to learn bit by bit how it works. We're not going to go to this class to praise or castigate the Obamacare plan. We're going to get the facts so that when we hold these workshops, we can tell people, hey, listen, this is how you'll be affected. It's easy to take sides on Obamacare, but the truth is we need to learn the facts. The health care exchanges open October 1st. If you want to start looking at it right now, go to healthcare.gov.
Well, and I think, Matt, that right now we're to a point where it really doesn't matter whether you like it or not.
It's here.
It's here. So it's a matter of learning it so that you can understand it and see how will it impact your family.
Yeah. Christy, I want to go back to this article, The Greatest Retirement Crisis in American History, because I think this article from Forbes really dovetails with the segments we had earlier about the retirement gamble. The gentleman who wrote this article says that the impending crisis will come in waves. It won't be a tsunami. It's going to be really 4 distinct waves. Number 1, retirees will come back to work. We're already seeing that. How many, I wasn't working with you in early 2008, but how many people came to see you, Christy, who weren't your clients, came to see you in 2008 and said, I want to stop the bleeding, but I've already lost so much, I've got to work 2 or 3 more years.
Well, we definitely saw that, Matt, and actually you can still see it today in many places that you go. Just look around. When you walk in a Walmart, you're going to see a senior citizen standing there greeting you. A lot of times if you go into a fast food restaurant, you'll see senior citizens working now.
Yeah.
And like I went to Bass Pro Shop the other day. There's greeters there, senior citizen greeters. And the reality is that retirement needs to be all about choice. If you really want to go and have a part-time job just because it gets you out of the house and maybe you enjoy working with people or volunteering or whatever it is you're doing. But the thing is that you don't want to have to. You don't want to have to be forced. You don't want other factors to come into play to make you make that decision.
Well, wave number 1, retirees come back to work. Number two, more and more workers delay retirement. We've already seen that wave
We're seeing
starting.
a lot of that. We're seeing a lot of that, Matt. And in fact, I had, when we moved in the new office back in February, we had 2 full-time positions available. And for one position, I interviewed about 16 different people.
Wow.
And it was funny to me that out of those 16 people, there were 3 of them that were over age 60. Now, I did not hire them because of their age. I just found it odd that, at that point in their life, they're having to look for a new job.
And I think you said it very well. If you want to do it, that's great. But if you have to do it, that's tough.
Yes.
And so what we're saying is, if you're still saving, save more. But if you're close to retiring, you got to protect yourself. Wave number 3 is many workers realize that full retirement is unachievable, and they're going to have to work even part-time until the day they die. And that's sad.
Well,
but we're seeing lots of that in America.
Some of that, Matt, is a direct result of people not saving, from a young age.
Absolutely.
I mean, I can tell you that I see a lot of people who come in and meet with me that, they didn't really start focusing on saving for retirement until they were in their early 50s. I mean, most people are raising families. They're putting kids through school. They're, there's so many expenses that they just put off funding their retirement until there's no other option.
Yeah.
And so, unfortunately, there's a lot that we can't change about that. We can't cut out the cost of diapers. We can't cut out the cost of education for our children, things like that. But I think the real important issue is that we stress to people that, if you have young children that are just entering the work world, if they're 25 years old, just got out of college and starting a full-time job, it is so important that you encourage them to start saving then. It's a lot easier to fund your retirement if you start off young. I say slow and steady always wins the race, because they're going to be more consistent than someone that starts at 55 and is trying to oversave, and it's an unrealistic expectation. So again, if you have children or grandchildren that are, just entering the work world, encourage them to start saving for retirement at that moment. I mean, don't put it off.
Yeah. And then last but not least, the 4th wave, and we haven't seen this one yet, but the prediction from this article in Forbes is at some point, a lack of savings, a lack of employment possibilities, and failing health will catch up with the overwhelming majority of the nation's elders, and wave 4 is called drowning. And he writes, let me emphasize, we're not talking about the overwhelming, he writes, let me emphasize, we're talking about the overwhelming majority, not a small percentage who arguably made bad decisions throughout their working life. And that goes back to what he was saying earlier, that so many Americans just don't have much saved.
Matt, when I'm sitting here listening to you talk about this, it reminds me of my pastor talking at church last weekend, because he's talking about how when the end of the world comes, there's going to be signs, and they're going to be slow and sure. It's not going to be something where, we just get hit in the head and say, hey, the world's going to end tomorrow.
It comes in waves.
We have to plan for our future. And that's the most important thing, is that we plan. Unfortunately, many of you don't know how to do that. You don't know how to research your options within your 401k. You don't know how to process an in-service distribution and take control of your own 401k. There's a lot of different options available, and I would just encourage you to take that extra time to learn about it, because the thing is that, think about it, my husband is turning 50 in November, and I'll tell you that I've already started with him. I said, okay, you got to quit smoking, you got to quit drinking. I say that like he does that a lot.
Yeah.
He doesn't. I'm using that really as in out of context. But the most important thing is I said, and you have to go get a physical. I want you to go and get a complete physical.
Oh, that includes the colonoscopy, and all men hate even thinking about that.
I know, and he looks at me crazy when I tell him about. But the reality is that, when you reach that certain age, we just all know, okay, we've got to start doing things different. And so, it's like that with retirement planning.
Yeah.
When you get closer to retirement, you have to start doing things differently. And that's why it's so important that you take the time to really become educated.
And today, my goal and Christy's goal was to let you know you have options. Yes, there may be a retirement crisis. So if you can save more, save more. And that gamble that we talked about in the first two segments about pouring your money into plans that put you at risk and cost you a lot of money, you have alternatives. You just have to sit down with us and let us show you how these alternatives can benefit you. It would be our honor. And it's no cost, obligation, no cost, no obligation, first appointment, sit down, just to talk. We're at 791-5773. We're on Veterans Boulevard in Denham Springs, right off the I-12. 791-5773. Remember, our website is safemoneyplan.net. We'll be back to wrap things up in just a moment on Your Money Matters.